Hey, you. You're finally awake.
G'day Smut Squad and welcome back to the channel. Because GameStop have declared PlayStation 3 a retro console, I now have more consoles for me to choose from when it comes to making videos. So of course I'm going to go into that PlayStation 3 well and look at some obscure RPGs. These could be games you've probably never even heard of or might have just seen on the shop and gone, what the hell is that, but just never bothered to give it a look. Before we go any further, if you think I deserve it, please remember to hit that like, hype and subscribe button, as well as listen to the weekly podcast and join our free Discord. These JRPGs are often overlooked because of the big boys like Final Fantasy 13 and other big games like Dark Souls and Skyrim, but maybe you should give them a look. Although not everything on this list is perfect. As always, if you do think there's ones I need to talk about, please put it in the comments below. Right, let's get into it, shall we? Some obscure PlayStation 3 RPGs. Time and Eternity. Now this is one of the most visually distinct yet polarizing RPGs in the PlayStation 3 era, because it had completely hand-drawn animation aesthetic and it sparks interest amongst game enthusiasts today. Like, let's be honest, look at it. It looks incredible. Like, it actually makes you feel like you're in a real-life anime. However, although it's beautiful, it's a bit jarry. Like, you can see the animation frames are a bit limited, which means it's a bit stuttery, which is a bit annoying. Like, if it had more frames of animation, it'd just look a lot more fluid. The story itself seems pretty good. It begins with a wedding between the protagonist Zack and the princess Toki. When an assassin and the ninjas decide to arrive and they interrupt the ceremony because standard, it's revealed that Toki actually shares her body with a second soul, a fiery blonde alter ego named Toa. Now that sounds pretty cool. You've got two waifus instead of one. That's really cool. And see that floating dragon? Yep, that's the protagonist Zack. He has been transformed into a floating beast. So essentially him with his princess and two waifus on hand. Now the whole point is you start off with one of them, and whenever you level up or use a specific item, the personality switches to the other soul. But then you think, well hang on, that's a bit annoying because I can't do anything, I can't switch to the one unless I level up. And they both got different personalities, like Toki has long-range rifle combat and magic, while Toa is a short-range physical brawler. Again, that's cool to have that options, but you need to be able to switch them on the fly, not just when they level up, because that could be quite annoying. Like, what happens if you had one of them as a wife and they're pissing you off and you're waiting for them to level up to get back to the other one? Now, the combat system is a hybrid of real-time action and command-based menus, and much of the timing comes from dodging and snatching turns. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of reminds me of Expedition 33 and the idea how you can basically have fluid combat and dodge when you need to. The problem here is that Expedition 33, well, the models have that animation that'll be able to make it look good. But with Time and Eternity, it's missing frames of animation that could make this perfect. And not to say this is a bad idea, I think this is a very good idea, and I really think if this was done again, this could be fantastic. Like, if you gave me a PS5 game that does exactly the same thing, I think it'd look amazing. Or give this the remake treatment and put the guys around Expedition 33 on it. I think it would be absolute tits. Trinity Universe. Well, this is an experiment in that crossover RPG. Because you've got characters from the 8-Layer, is that how you pronounce it, and the Desaiga series. I've always Desaiga. I like Desaiga 5, that's the one I've got for the Nintendo Switch, but I never know how to pronounce the bloody thing. But it brought them together into a fully 3D environment for the first time. The game is set in the Nether Universe, which is a literal space dump where intergalactic junk drifts through the void. And the story follows two main protagonists. Now you pick one of them, and essentially then the story kind of intertwines depending which way you go. There's Kanata, who's the Demon Dog King, and Rizelia, who's a Valkyrie. Now, pretty cool character designs, would have liked some more. The gameplay itself kind of resembles Xenogears, in where you have face buttons to chain combo attacks together. Each attack you use does consume AP, and if you time your button presses correctly, you can actually trigger powerful EX attacks, which is pretty cool. And the dungeons themselves are actually floating objects in space. You have to anchor them to explore, but there's a time limit. So if you stay too long, the objects go drift away, you might be destroyed, which forces that frantic escape. The character chemistry here is fantastic, and those live 2D portraits have that live 2D style, meaning they breathe and they move during the dialogue, which felt very cool back in 2010. The problem is the dungeons are notoriously repetitive, and they look like empty corridors with just different wallpaper, and you're going to be grinding a lot. And I keep saying this when it comes to grinding, I don't mind if I'm actually getting somewhere. Over like Breath of Fire 2 or Breath of Fire 1, I can grind for ages and get absolutely nowhere. Sod that. I absolutely hate it. But it's not a bad little RPG, certainly not the worst on this list. Cross Edge. Yeah, you know I just talked about basically being a crossover RPG? Well, how about add some Capcom characters, add some Bandai Namco characters, and some Idea Factory characters into it? Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, there's so much in here. Capcom decided to add Morrigan, Felicia, and Dimitri from the Darkstalker series, which is pretty cool because, well, I saw Dimitri, but to have more Morrigan and Felicia, I'm always going to support that. For unknown reasons, I'm always going to support that. Battles themselves take place in a tactical grid, which means that the positioning is going to matter where you put your characters, and you can have the characters work together to cause branching and chain hits, which is pretty cool. The problem is there is a lot going on here. There's a lot. There's so much. Like a ridiculous amount of things they try and put in. Like, if you don't master the combat system, you're pretty screwed. You're in trouble. Also, I don't like the idea that all these characters kind of come into the world and they've all got amnesia and they're all trying to find out what's going on. I don't like that. Final Fantasy VIII did it and I don't like it then. But here, it's just a lazy trope to use because, I don't know, you don't learn about the character's backstory. Oh no, it's Felicia and Morrigan, what more do you want to know apart from just, you know, them? And you might want to learn about their history and how they maybe got to this world, or maybe a bit before. But just having amnesia, I just think is a bit lazy, boring. I don't know, just don't like it. And also, to get the true ending, you've got to meet incredibly specific hidden requirements that, without a guide, you ain't gonna face. So if you spent 20 to 30 hours trying to complete this game, and you think you're going to do it, and then you get the bad ending, that's really annoying. And then you think, oh, I couldn't get the true ending, there's nothing I can do, I'm going to restart the game all over again. That'll piss you off. And I think that's the problem here. There's too much that they did. Like, and also the animation, as we see other ones on this list, it's not the best animation. Considering there were so many companies that are involved, I know they're obviously just throwing their licenses here, but you think they would have made it look a little bit better. Honestly. Like, in reality, you could probably spend 20, 30 to 100 hours on this game, but would you want to do that if the game doesn't look amazing? Mugen Souls. Now, this is a bit of a quirky, over-the-top game, where the story follows Choo-Choo, who's a self-proclaimed undisputed goddess, and her goal's quite simple. She wants to conquer the 7 worlds of the galaxy and turn everything and everyone into her loyal peons. And basically, when she does that, she puts them in a giant spaceship, which is shaped like a dragon's head, and they control and basically run the ship for her. So how the game works, essentially, during battle, you can either kill your enemy and then try and get them on your side, or you can do it during battle, which can make the battles take forever. But either way, the whole point is that you want to go around the world fighting enemies to get peons, so they could basically become your little minions on the ship. So basically the whole thing is you've got to flirt your way. Flirt, the way I see it, you flirting your way, or basically getting on their good side, and eventually go, oh, we'll join you, we'll become your friend. Like, it looks pretty cool. But that's not the reason I really want to talk about this game. Like, it's flashy, it's colourful, and it's intentionally chaotic. I do like the artwork here, it's pretty cool. But then I found out, well, hang on, why is it censored? I found out that it was censored, and apparently it was when it came to the English version. And then, basically, it got released on the Nintendo Switch. And even that version got censored when it came to Australia. I was like, why the hell is it censored? And then I found it and went, oh no. Oh no, I don't think I can even show this on YouTube. Well, I probably could, but I'm going to be demonetized, and if my mum suddenly came in, or your mum came in watching this video, they're going to wonder what you're watching. Because there's a bathing minigame in here, and you basically could bathe the Choo-Choo. And to make it even worse, you get the bubbly suds, and you can massage the suds. I don't even know if that's PG. If anyone gets that reference, you're going to be my friend. I'm not showing it on YouTube. You're just going to have to imagine what's happening. Hence why I put a picture of anything. I don't even know what I put up at the time of writing this, but there's no way I'm putting a picture of a young girl in a bubble bath. This is going to get me demonetized for sure. And I want to make money with this thing, so no chance. But yeah, I can 100% see why it got censored back in the day. Although it makes me laugh it got censored now. Australia really are the sensitive country, aren't we? We finally get off the anime train to talk about White Knight Chronicles. This is developed by Level 5, these are the guys behind Dragon Quest VIII and Ni no Kuni, so there are massive expectations here. Now, the defining hook of this game was what we call the Incorruptus. So during battle, the protagonist Leonard can transform into a white knight, which is what we can see here, which is a towering ancient suit of armor that basically stands several stories high. And that's really cool, because then it's basically giant versus giant, just in like standard battle. It's not just like it's the Final Fantasy 16, where it's only the special battles where Ifrit comes out. No, the White Knight can come out just when, you know, having a casual battle. I think that's pretty cool. The game does look really awesome. I've got to give that, like the knight design, especially when the second one came out, I was trying to find artwork for the thumbnail, and trying to find one was really cool. So I don't even know what the character is. I could not find a good thumbnail of any games here that I could put in here without putting Morrigan in here, but I thought that'd be kind of cheating when it comes to it. Like, I do like the idea of you can change to a white knight. The problem is with this game is that, I don't know, the combat is slow, and all you just need to do is button mash. Do the same ability over and over and over again and you'll win. That's even as Leonard or as when you turn into the knight. And that's a bit crap. Like, the environments are great, the music's great, I like the story, but when it comes to just the combat, it's just X, 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 or just mash, 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 mash. That's not fun. That's not fun. And this is a big game. And there's an online component as well. Like, you can have your own custom village, you can have 4-player co-op quests. That's pretty cool. Okay? I do like that. But there's a lot you need to do here. And I just think, when you can have all the best systems in the world, but if the combat is bare bones and shit, well, it probably isn't bare bones, it's not. But there's lots to it, but you can get away with just doing the same thing. It's like if you were playing Dark Souls, and then you just did the same thing over and over again. You didn't have to ever change your tactics, you just did the same move of swipe, 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 swipe. And no challenge, you just get bored. And I think that's the problem with this game has. Eternal Sonata. Now, I remember seeing this as a kid. Not the game itself, but I used to see the box art all the time, wonder, what the hell is this game? I just like the anime look, and yes, we've gone back to the anime look. It's perhaps the only video game in history to function as both a high fantasy adventure game and a biography of a 19th century Polish composer. So the entire game takes place inside the fever dream of Frederick Chopin, who is the Polish composer, who died of tuberculosis at the age of 39, which is pretty horrific. So playing as Chopin himself, you join a group of rebels in your own dream. The story's kind of divided into chapters named after his famous compositions, like Raindrop or Revolutionary, so it's basically teaching you about old 19th century Polish works, which is pretty cool, so the music's going to be absolutely spot on. The battle system itself is brilliant because it's got real-time action and tactical planning, but the most famous feature is the light dart mechanic. So what happens is that monsters change form based on where they stand. So a cute harmless looking bird in the sun might turn into a terrifying werewolf if it steps into a shadow. That's pretty cool. Like, it's a beautiful, vibrant, cel-shaded looking game, and cel-shaded graphics always look pretty cool, and obviously the soundtrack is going to be spot on. And it should actually be mentioned, this was originally an Xbox 360 game. The PS3 version is essentially the definitive version, which came also with extra characters you can play, extra cutscenes to clarify the ending, and also new dungeons, which is pretty cool. The thing my head goes to, if I was having a video game inside my head, most of it would probably include Felicia and Morrigan. Again, you can make of that what you will, and probably the bubble bath mechanic. Alright? Now we can... Again, that's not being put up there because I'll definitely get in trouble for that. But let's add those three elements together, and I think we're fine. Okay? You can all say in the comments what your fever dream game would be like. That's mine. And finally, Enchanted Arms. Made by From Software. Yes, the people who made Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Demon Souls. Yeah, they made Enchanted Arms. And it basically became the first JRPG of the 7th console generation, and it was there to serve as a technical showcase for what the PS3 could do at launch. The game follows Atsuma, who's a student at a magic university, and during a festival, an earthquake breaks the sea on legendary Ice Queen Golem, leads the destruction of the city, and Atsuma embarking on a journey to stop the Golem War. So Atsuma's also got this right arm, right? This cool, well, obviously we all have a right arm, and it can display, it's a special right arm. Right, before we go any further. And it can neutralize magic and shatter golems. So golems are basically, I don't know, the best way to describe this, they're like Pokemon. Alright? Because you can catch them and use them in battle. And there's 500 different ones. It's goddamn Pokemon. Okay? So the Pokemon, that's how we're going to do this. You can basically defeat them and craft them using synthesis materials. It's a Pokemon. And they can range from a whole series of random things from, like, I don't know, bizarre creatures like a giant toy duck. Have fun, but you can have every combination of humans and golems or Pokemon as you want. Again, it's pretty cool. The battle system's like a tactical light. It takes place on 2 6x4 grids, like one for you and one for the enemy. So I like that. I like grid-based fighters. That's definitely better than Cross-Edge, I'd say, but it's interesting to see where From Software came from. Well, I know they probably had ones before this, but seeing their first game on the PS3 before they became the mega giants that they are now with the Souls series, it's pretty interesting. And that's it, a list of obscure PS3 RPGs. Let me know what you think of this video, and let me know if there's one I need to talk about for the future. I'll see you all in a few days for another video. My name's been Danny, take care of yourself, follow your dreams.